Alright, hello my people. I'm in the car. Jason's playing down at the park. We just left church, and when I'm down here, I'm gonna get the Sunrise Bible because I think it's time for us to start reading the Bible together. But anyways, the message kind of followed through with another message that the pastor had given, and it's actually the other message is a real part of NAAA and the recovery. So to start with, one of my friends says, "You cuss a lot, but you go to church. Why don't you go to church?" And she gave a couple of common reasons that people go to church. And I said, I go to church to hear the message. Because my relationship with God is my own, but sometimes I just need encouragement. And this is very, very true. So a while back, there's a couple of different things about. One of them is like especially in addiction, or and codependency is an addiction, where you run and you get a sheep runs and gets stuck in the gully, and the shepherd has to come pull it out, and then the next thing it does is it runs right back into the gully. And that's in addiction, codependency. That's a lot of what happens, and sometimes falling in that gully is going to jail. And then another one is that when a sheep wanders off, the shepherd will break its legs and then carry it. And obviously there's some kind of setting, and it's, that Jesus somehow cripples you and then carries you along with him. I don't like that metaphor fully, because I don't believe Jesus harms us to get him to follow us. But I do believe, and you'll see this time and time again with people who go in and out of jail. When they go to jail, they find Jesus. A lot of times they just go to church because it's what's there. There's always a Bible, and they're bored, so they pick up the Bible and they're reading it, and they feel that because there's other people around them that are feeling it, and it's contagious. It is. And then when they step out and it's not there, they go back to the life. And that's like Jesus breaking our legs and holding them close. But as humans, we tend to run right back into that gully. But today's message was more about knowing the Word of God. And not knowing it as in knowing what he has said in the past and what is in the Bible, but hearing his voice. And they used John 10 to start the demonstration on this. And John 10 talks about a sheepfold. And it's basically a circle of stones. It's about 3 feet high, maybe a little bit more, to keep the sheep in. And the shepherd, when they're out in the wilderness, will have one of these. And at night, he'll sleep in the doorway so the sheep can't get out. And wolves and thieves won't get in. And then it follows through that on the outside of the big cities, because you can't leave your sheep in the wilderness unattended when you go to town, there were large sheepfolds. And you just put all your sheep in there together with 3 or 4 other shepherds who've gone to town. And when you come back, your sheep will come to you because you call them by name. And if you go over the wall instead of going to the gate man, you're a thief. And your sheep will not follow the thief because they don't know his voice. And this is directed towards, God, and Jesus as our shepherd, and that we should hear his voice. Now, less towards being saved and more towards my personal experience, which overall is what this channel is about, that and gaming. Without going into a lot of detail, my childhood / adolescence and moving forward were troubled. There was it was unpleasant, and a lot of that is it is dispersed between both my parents, and I spent a long time internally hating my father, and that took a lot of energy. Hate takes a lot of energy, and you have to be able to let go of that energy to move from. I mean, there are people who just straight up hate, and it steals what is there. So in 2002, my father had a mental breakdown, put his hand through a fish tank, killed some koi, did a bunch of other stuff. He ended up getting arrested, going into treatment, and getting psych meds, and he was better. The hate was still in my heart. So this is 2002. I had my first son. I have my second son. My parents come down from Sacramento to Madera to see us a couple of times. And then my life goes to hell. I lose my apartment. Steve's in jail. I've lost the kids. I've been beaten. My foot is broken. And I hear in the back of my head, go home. And I push it away. Fuck that, I ain't going home. Fuck that. And then I get my life back together. And then it all falls apart again. And the whole time I'm hearing, Barbara, you need to go home. Barbara Jane, go home. Go home. It ain't happening. So between 2003 or 2002 to 2003 when I lost the boys, 2004 we lose I lost the boys and the apartment in 2003. I got another little house in 2004 and I lose that, but Steve gets us another one right away. In 2004 it's the first time I cheated on my husband. I went to jail for fighting with his sister. I went to the fair. The fair was when I cheated on him. I came home. He had somebody else in the house. 2004 was pretty rough. Steve finds us another house. He brings his sister. His sister brings Carmen. I will not go into the aspects of Carmen because right now that's really hurtful to me. But anyways, so we go through this thing, and Steve goes to jail. We lose this house. Our life just kind of went to shit. And then I move in with Steve's other sister, and we move to Bakersfield. And I think the worst thing is that Steve has the time frames mixed up, and he won't let go of it. And I don't know who gave him this time frame, but he developed this time frame when I was in prison, and it's wrong. And I think that's part of what he's holding on to. The hatred that he's holding on to is the wrong thing. But anyways, back to the point. This whole time I'm hearing, as my world continues to fall apart, because I'd gone back to jail with Giovanna. Then I moved in with Amanda. We moved to Bakersfield. We go get Steve from jail. We're living in Bakersfield. I'm fighting with Amanda and her husband. And me and Steve are fighting. I end up in the hospital, and then I end up with no insurance. I have a warrant out for my arrest. I have no way to take medications for the seizures I'm having again, let alone the mental health that I didn't have. And I'm hearing, go home, go home, go home. Just go home. But I stop Steve, and we stop a place to live. And then we don't. And then he got arrested. And I'm sitting in a shelter. I have no income because my Social Security's been cut off because I have a warrant. I have no insurance, so the medication I have is all I have. And I'm picking out my nails because this is a very so then I'm in the shelter, and the shelter's like, you can't stay here forever. Is there any place we can go? So I call my mom. My mom sends my dad, or talks to my dad, and I get on a bus and I go home. And I did get arrested, so there was 3 months that I wasn't there. But I got to spend the majority of that year before my father passed away, which the anniversary that's coming up with my dad. Not hating him. Because when we were in Bakersfield, Steve and I had actually gone to church. And I had the urge to say, I miss my dad. And I remember that call. And this is just before we lost everything. I remember that call. Steve called. He dialed. I asked to talk to my dad, and my mom argued with me, of course. And then she was like, he's having a good day. I said, let me talk to my dad. And all I told him was I loved him. And we both cried. And then hell broke loose. And then I went home. I spent some time with him. And then he passed away on the 23rd of October, which happens to be my cousin Tara's birthday. And the anniversary of the day my parents met. Yeah. So it's not just knowing to hear, and the pastor was saying that we tune things out, and it's not just tuning things out. It's wanting to hear what God has to say and listening, following the directions, because He will pull everything out from under you, and He did. But he went on to talk about how there's stupid warnings on things, like on a can of peanuts, warning, this contains peanuts, warning, don't use iron when you're wearing your clothes, warning, Nital causes drowsiness. My favorite, the warning, this contains peanuts is a pretty, or peanuts contain peanuts, is a pretty interesting one. But my favorite one is Long John Silver's. I don't know where you're from, but it's a fish restaurant, and it's something that has a little bit of touch to my family. But you go to the drive-thru and it says warning, contains fish. So the fish on the building, the fish on the sign, no. Long John Silver's being from Treasure Island, none of that mattered. They gotta tell you, legally, they gotta tell you that the products cause fish, or contain fish, because if they don't, they're gonna get in trouble, because someone with a fish allergy who didn't know that this product contains fish could eat the fish and die. And then their family will sue them because they didn't know that ordering fish contained fish. or ordering the chicken and it's fried in the same freaking fryer that the fish is fried in, the hush puppies. I am, you know what, when that CTC comes, I am going to get me some, I mean, if nothing else, just hush puppies. But, you know, it's an overall, we don't listen to God. We don't listen to what he has to say. We don't listen to, we don't read the warnings. And when we read them, we don't listen to them. We choose, oh, you know, that sounds great, but I can do better. Or that's not what I want right now. People having affairs, people sleeping with married people, stuff like that. Drugs. I know the drug addicts are hearing, you gotta stop this, you gotta stop this. And they're tuning it out because whatever brought them to that point, you know, and I know Steve is just, he's on a downward spiral right now, and it's rough. But that's all. I'm gonna stop mumbling and I'll talk to you later.